Okay, so this is a video on how to use watercolor properly to paint your coral tile project. So as you guys know, we are going to be painting our bisque projects with watercolor. Watercolor, if you've never used it before, is just that. You mix water with color, and then that is what you paint with. So now some of the trickiness comes with how much water do I use? And that is really what this lesson comes down to. So although this is not a hands-on demo of how to do it with actual watercolor, this is an unconventional way of showing you guys how to do it, just by using Photoshop here. So as you can see in this right-hand corner, this is our color wheel, right? With our color wheel, we can see all the colors, or most of the colors that you'll find in your watercolor palette, in your pans, just right on this outside edge. It's all of the most intense version of our hues: red, orange, green, yellow, etc. Inside the circle, they seem to get much lighter. Those are the colors as they start getting mixed with white, or in our case, as we add more water. Water, when added to these intense hues, is going to make them more transparent. Um, it essentially is what we're dealing with when we talk about opacity. Opacity is how transparent something is or isn't. So, for example, if I take this red color and I paint it with like hardly any water. I mix, a little water in the color, but it's mostly all color. You get this bright red color. But then how do you get pink, right? Well, the way you're going to get pink is you're going to take that bright red color, but you're going to mix a lot of water with it. So you can see here, oh, oopsies, 1 second, technology. 1 moment. There we go. If you mix a lot of water with that red, you get pink. It's not necessarily that we've mixed white with red, it's that the red is so transparent that the white background of, in this case, the paper or the background is showing through. Now we could even take that further and we can mix a ton of water in our color to make it such a light shade of pink that you could hardly see it. Furthermore, you could even take these really watered down pinks and you can keep adding more and you can keep layering them up and it'll make that pink more bold. And you could even do this for so long, so many layers, where eventually you can get it all the way to the red. However, most of us for our coral tile project, we're not going to be wanting to deal with the really, really bright colors. Most of our colors we're going to want to water down. What I see as the most common error that people make in painting their coral tile project is they don't add enough water and they get these really bold clown car-like colors for a coral, which is meant to be more pastel-like, more lighter in color. You can water down any of these colors, orange, for example, instead of just doing a bright, fully colored orange, water it down quite a lot and you'll get a much more lovely orange. And if you don't like that orange, you could always add on layers to make it a little bit more bold. You want to start light. Adding on layers is the key because you can't really take away the paint, but you could always add more for this project. Um, for example, if you look at this coral down here, if we were to paint on this lovely transparent orange, you see how we have a nice pastel-y color versus if we had painted on this really, really bold orange without hardly any water in it. Notice how it's really bright and kind of obnoxious. So I recommend really watering down your colors. You can always layer up on them. Now we're going to talk about gradients. There's going to be some times where you have a part of your coral where it might look really nice to create a gradient. For example, let's say we want to make a gradient from orange to yellow. What's important with gradients is you generally want to choose gradients from a similar side of the color wheel. For example, you wouldn't want to do a gradient from orange to violet. That would not work out well. You would end up getting a muggy brown where they blend. But a gradient from like orange to pink or from orange to yellow, that could work out well. So let's see, by using these really light shades, what a gradient from orange to yellow might look like. So what I'm doing is theoretically I'm adding some layers, but on one end, I'm making it layered up with the orange. Now I'm going to get yellow and I'm going to add some layers of yellow. There's going to be some overlap. See how there's some overlap. And that is how you get a lovely gradient. Now let's see how that looks on the project itself. Let's say I start painting a nice watered down yellow at the tips. Notice how the color, I build it up more in the area where I want it more intense at the tip. Where it's going to blend is where I'm going to have it a little bit more transparent. Now I'm going to take that lovely orange, water it down quite a bit, and I'm going to do the same thing, but from the other angle, the other end of the coral. So again, it's going to be a little bit more bold at the base, but then where I have them blend into a lovely gradient, I'm going to leave it kind of transparent. So that's how you can create a gorgeous gradient on your projects. Again, this is a very quick version of how to do this, but I think it'll visually translate well to watercolors. Okay, now let's talk about neutralizing color. So there might be some points in your project where you don't even want a super, super bold color. You just want kind of like a little bit of a blue, but not a blue that's too intense. And I don't mean light versus dark. I just mean the hue itself. So what you do whenever you want to neutralize color is you can take the color itself and you can mix in just a smidge of its complement. For this example, I'm going to show it using blue in its most intense hue. Now, if I were to take just a smidge of the complement, which is the opposite color, so in this case, it would be orange, I just take a smidge of that. So I'm going to have a really watered down orange. Oh, 1 second, technological difficulties. There we go. And if I put a little bit of that orange in with the blue, notice how it's now more neutralized. So remember, this was the before, and then this is the after. Notice how it's more neutralized now. It's less bold. You can do that with any of your colors on the color wheel. You take your main color. Oh, 1 second. Take your main color, such as this purple. Full opacity. There we go. You mix in a little bit of the opposite color, and it starts to neutralize it. Now, if you add too much of the opposite color, oh, that was way, way too much. If you add too much of the opposite color, you're really just going to get a brown. But that can actually be really, really helpful because sometimes the brown that's included in these watercolor pans is kind of a really ugly brown, to be honest. You can mix your own browns in order to make your own sand color if you'd like, and it tends to be a really lovely color. For example, this is a really lovely shade of brown. So theoretically, if I take this brown and I paint it on the base, so now you're looking at this, right? And even that looks kind of bold and ugly. But if we're trying to make a sand, if you're trying to make a sand, remember, have nice watery coats, and you'll be able to have a really nice sandy base color. This one appears a little bit like a gray, and you'll find that different complements create different types of browns. For example, green. Gosh, this is a really bold green. But green combined with its complement, which on this color wheel is pink, usually it's like a red, will give you a different type of brown. Notice how this shade of brown for the red-green combo is quite a bit different than this shade of brown from the purple-yellow combo. So I highly recommend mixing your own browns. Okay, to summarize, I highly recommend for this project, make sure you use a lot of water and just layer up. I also recommend using gradients in a lot of your coral to give it something of a unique look. And if you don't like some of the really, really bold colors, feel free to neutralize them just a little bit. I also recommend making your own browns by mixing the complements. So I hope this helps.